Welcome to Reset with Ball Doggett, a conversation connecting our industry. I'm Zadie Jackson, Business Development Manager for Ball Doggett. So pleased to be joined in episode 10 by these two wonderful gentlemen that I have the utmost respect for, Mr. Rhys Gorgal, Creative Director of the company you keep, and Mr. Matthew McCarthy from Clear Design. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Very good.
Yes, doing well.
Doing well. The sun is out and it's streaming through where both of you are, so this is a positive start to the day.
It is. Followed up with a conversation and a cuppa.
Cheers.
And I've got a nice long black going, so I'm excited. Now,
I'm going to jump in. I'm going the peppermint tea after my latte, which I am perfecting now that I am in lockdown. That's been my one thing of enjoyment, is every morning trying to make a better coffee.
Oh, wonderful. Can we come in and enjoy it once we're allowed?
Oh, God, yes. I'm actually going to put it off a proper stove and kitchen in when we get back to our office, so I can show my expertise.
That's a date. Rhys, we're in there.
On your website, instead of having like a logo page that everyone has, just in vectors, you can do it in latte art and just shoot it top down.
Actually, I've designed your logo as a thing that you can put on top of a cafe latte.
Yeah, it works for a social media avatar and it works for latte art.
Yes, exactly.
Inspiration within the first minute, gentlemen. I'm completely fine. Thank you. And I'm going to get a great cup of coffee out of it too. But talking about inspiration, I do like to start our sessions with a quote, and this one is apt for the two gentlemen that I'm speaking to today. If you do it right, it will last forever, by Massimo Vignelli, the renowned design icon that actually created in 1972 the New York City subway map. Now, I feel it's apt in relation to both of you because, Rhys, I've worked closely with you and your team on some incredible projects. Matthew, we appreciate and value the connection that we have with you and your incredible creative team for the beautiful work that you guys do. And I find that whenever I talk to you guys about your projects, it's always timeless and it's authentic, and that's what I really appreciate that comes out of your studio. So now, before we get into some Q&A, let our viewers become acquainted with you both. Rhys, sir, you founded the company you keep in 2012, working with high-profile clients, TCYK, design brands that form and inform the way we live. Brands that are read daily, visited often, and seen by many. Fundamental to their practice is a clear narrative experienced in great detail. From the minutiae to the monumental, every brand element is an opportunity for greater clarity and resonance, grounded in the position that conscious design forms an unconscious impression. Our brands are unconventional and layered. Brands that speak rather than shout. And Mr. Matthew, Clear Design was founded 20 years ago. I believe 10 months ago you guys had your anniversary. Yeah. Partnering with thought leaders, change makers and risk takers, bringing their brands to life through design narratives that engage minds, inspire compassion and change behaviours. Their creative is fearless and processes finely honed, idea-driven, detail-obsessed, endlessly curious. They are a studio of damn good storytellers through strategy and insight, form and colour, type and scale, image and texture, word and sound, interaction and immersion. They craft brands, narratives that leverage the full potential of every method and medium involved in their expression.
That was one sentence, by the way. That's just one really, really, really long sentence. There's no full stops in there.
But that articulates the depth and breadth of what you guys bring to our incredible design community in Australia. So let's get into it, gents. We've been in this marathon, as we spoke about earlier, for 7 months now, and it will be the most extraordinary experience of our lifetime. We've gone through ebbs both personally and professionally, and there's mental fatigue, there's physical fatigue, but I want to tap into you both and just check in. How are you and your teams, and how are you adjusting to where we are right now into a second sort of stage 4 lockdown. Rhys, I'll get you to kick off for us, please.
We're good. Team's good. I don't want to speak for all of them. They're all a beautiful bunch of individuals, but the vibes are high. I think it's a bit of a roller coaster this year, as everyone's kind of been on, and we're all just riding that. But all in all, at this point in time, you're catching us on one of the peaks, which seems to keep going up, hopefully, for this time of 2020. But yeah, things are good. I mean, we do check in a lot, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of come out of this is more of maybe a personal level of communication that drives a deeper connection between the team. So it's less, more tactical conversations and more emotive or just human conversations. And from that point, I think there's really brought out a strong support network amongst that community, which has kind of allowed us to kind of ride through it in a pretty strong way together.
Oh, that's brilliant. And that's a really nice, energetic kind of experience everyone's gaining from as well, right? So
yeah, I mean, there's things that we're doing now that we haven't done in the past. Like we're doing every Monday, we do our workout together, and I do it, which is kind of interesting. You would never think about, or I wouldn't have thought about doing that with the team, but that's something that everyone's really, really enjoying, and there's meditation that we're doing on together each fortnight as well. So these other things that are kind of supplementing, or we're having to find as vehicles to bring each other together, are really enriching our practice and our relationships together, which has kind of been a good byproduct of it.
I think that's probably one of the most, how would I put it, the most intense experience that can come out of this for everybody, because there's such a great value personally, which will impact in what you output,
Yeah. And I think that is the case where you've actually needed to forge deeper relationships with your team, rather than it being about the work. It's been about the understanding, and it's been about that sort of thing of not every day you feel chipper, and sometimes you need to give people space, and they may or may not be in a good headspace, and you just need to go, well, that's totally cool, we'll catch up later. And we all have those moments, so it's not so it's very relatable. And moving into those relationships where you're finding space and you can talk more openly about the idea, and just say, I don't think it's quite there yet, or and just having this lens to just speak directly about the idea, and it's been really interesting. There's been some great projects that have come out of it, because we've actually thought about it, we've contributed, and then we've run away and come back and share screened and done all the terrible things that you wouldn't typically do. But it's just been really good fun, lots of fun as well.
That's great. And I think also it's also, for me, I'm hearing really great leadership, because without leadership and driving that kind of energy within a business, it may not actually occur within a studio or within a corporate community or whatever the environment is. So that's what I'm taking out from what you guys are saying right now. So Matthew, your team out there, how have they settled through it all? I mean, you were just saying coming out with some really great projects and concepts and ideas. How are they faring throughout all this?
I think everyone, is running a different sort of cadence, to use that marathon analogy. We've sort of been really looking to find those moments where we can connect or explore ideas together. One of the first things that we realised in sort of leaving the office on, I think, the 23rd of March, was that all those rituals that we had in place through inspiration mornings, or connection around projects, or even just the simple work in progress meetings weren't going to be there. So we had to adapt and change. And one of the first things that we ended up creating was this project called the ISO Diaries, or the Isolation Diaries. And it was really about not using our EDM as a platform to connect about issues or ideas that we were all interested in, rather than our work. it was just to create a conversation. And that's been probably a really great thing where we've all started to just talk about things that we're reading, we're watching, listening to, or making. And it's just enabled us to add and connect and maybe show different strengths that we didn't all know that we had in writing or visualization or just interests. And then finding that sort of common thread with our clients and friends. So that's been a good thing.
I think it's been amazing, and it's up to volume 23 already. We'll tap into that into a second. And I've been
sure.
Personally, I love them. But Rhys, I want to tap into collaboration. We've spoken about this at length, even prior to our current landscape. And I'd love you to share your thoughts on how the team potentially have evolved through this time and in the collaboration sense, but also not just collaborating with team members, but with clients and potentially other studios. What are your thoughts around that?
I think one of the interesting things out of this whole experience in 2020 has been the structures that we take for granted, that we feel are unshakable, completely eroded in a second. So the fact that, hey, the government can't keep you inside after 8 o'clock, that's ludicrous. No, it's reality. Like those sorts of things. We can't run a studio off-site. No, you actually can. So these sorts of things are kind of broken up. And so with that, even the notion of collaboration and a way in which you thought about it prior is kind of broken down. So it allows you to really look at every relationship that you have, regardless of whether that's internal with your team or whether that's external with your clients or as part of a peer group with other studios or with suppliers, and kind of redefine what that looks like, how that works. There doesn't necessarily need to be a power dynamic there. It's just two individuals relating to create something. And that splintering physically from an office into being remote has kind of almost been a similar thing that's happened within micro communities within the team. So there's individual levels of collaboration. Like two team members have independently come up with this initiative of it's called the Exquisite Corpse, where you'd have essentially, like, I would draw the bottom half of something, and I'd pass that piece of paper on to Matthew, and then he'd draw the next thing that would connect to it. Then he would pass that on to you, and then you would draw that, and we could kind of continue on. And two team members, Claire and Sam, have independently outside of the commercial practice just come up with this idea to do that and kind of start this almost chain letter website, which is kind of really interesting that it hasn't been spurred by anyone else within the team. It's just been them, and they've fostered a really tight bond over that. And in the same way, the idea of collaboration with individual micro communities with the team that are working on projects, they're running the project independently and kind of coming back to us. So that sense of ownership and the way in which those two entities relate is far deeper. From a client perspective, one that really is pretty powerful, it's that workout one that I kind of mentioned before. We've got a client called Maddox that have opened a gym just at the start of all this, and so haven't really necessarily had a chance to kind of be super public facing. But in between the previous lockdown and this one, they did an event that we kind of worked with them on called Process 2020, and it was all about the idea of healing and kind of moving through the idea that you are in this process. It isn't finished, nothing's written off, and kind of checking in and setting an intention. And that was hugely collaborative. We kind of ended up bringing in Maddie Baxter from Grow Project, who's a client. We had Hugh, who we'd never met before, Hugh Allen, who's the exec chef at Vue de Monde, who we're doing some work on another project with. Literally, I'd spoken to him once and then said to him, hey, would you be interested in doing this food program for this gym event? And he's like, yep, let's do it. And he ended up doing protein balls with mealworms and crickets and all this crazy stuff. And these are things that you probably just through the normal day-to-day operation pre-COVID you'd almost hesitate to ask, because you preempt the response. You go, okay, they're probably not necessarily going to be interested. So this has kind of allowed you to question that and go, well, what if? Yeah. And everyone seems to be very, very receptive, down to a kind of that individual splintering level.
Yeah. And what a great lesson, because if you don't ask, you don't know, right?
Totally.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And don't assume you know. That's the other thing. I think that's the lovely thing about this. Assume you know anything, because anything's possible, good or bad.
Absolutely. It can go either way, right? Matt, let's get into the diaries, because when it first came up, I just remember saying to my colleagues, oh my God, this is great. I just wonder how many more volumes are we going to have. And now we're at
25, sister.
25, sorry. Yes, I beg your pardon.
Today.
Oh, good. Yeah, no.
Last Wednesday.
And the thing is, I think it's, you articulated it in a way that it's just offered something quite different and diverse for everybody's palate, right? And I think one of the books I actually bought as a result through the Black Lives Matter movement was, Marcia Langton's Welcome to Country, and as a woman of colour, I felt that was such a powerful inclusion. So thank you. But I loved the area that you spoke about in sharing 3 tips about collaboration, and could you just expand on that for us and take us through what you shared through your network?
Oh God, I don't know if that in front of me. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, we, to our point around collaboration, I really, we've really, some functional things that we have done is move from email to Slack, and just to be, pinging. We can't work out what a Slack is. Like, just send you a Slack. Is it a Slick, or is it, or is the whole message a Slack? So we've moved to Slack over email. We've moved to Zoom over Assume. And it's been that thing of just like, I don't quite get this, and that's on all levels. To that's with clients. Of just going. In the past, you would wait to that presentation to present. But we're checking in so many more times with our clients and talking about the idea of it, how it could happen, and getting 2 or 3 of us on that call, and just having that sort of more, less you client, we studio, we present to you, you receive, we shake hands, and then we walk away. It is really becoming more... a lot more collaboratively in much better ways. And we've also internally just had that thing of just call me anytime. Anytime is just absolutely okay. And you find that people are going, oh gee, I can, clients are calling you up and they just want you to talk about something, staff are saying, well, I've got this idea, and we're just pushing it and making it go live. When we've been talking about collaboration within, the ISO diaries, we'd broken it up into 4 sections, and the 5th section was really this idea where each team member was going to take it on board and give something of really interest to engage with. So early on, someone was talking about planting, and other people been talking about food, and then I had chat with Matt, and we had this sort of Friday mornings where people could jump on a Zoom and talk, and that was successful. And then most recently through the diaries, we had a client of ours who are based over in the States say, oh look, we want to collaborate with you. We want our team and your team to come together to create a series. So actually this week on the today
sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh,
could you please repeat what you said?
Sorry, Siri. Siri wants to collaborate too.
All about.
So so we're doing a 4-part series with LOHA, and we'll dual publish it here and to their database overseas, and it's just a really lovely opportunity to connect with their team and our team about ideas. So they're in the middle of bushfires and a general election, so we're getting a really different lens on things. And then on top of that, we've added a new sort of celebrity collaborator who's talking about their time in ISO. So it is really becoming a very interesting vehicle just to connect on ideas. And the way it works is it's an EDM, it's beautifully designed, and it's beautifully copywritten by Laura. And it just is giving you probably 30 or 40 or 50 things to just go off and explore and entertain.
And I've certainly done that, I can assure you.
And we all have as a team. I think it's been really enjoyable. So thank you.
And I love when I hear about collaboration and throughout the series of Reset, what I find really encouraging and quite powerful is, although there are different forms and shapes of collaboration for everybody, the two things that come in for me is about the connection and the compassion that allows you to have, through whatever shape that is. And I think that is probably, part of the experience that you guys have had, because so many great projects have come out of that. You guys are, collaborating with an overseas element. And, Rhys, your guys have done something so askew that never would have happened again. And it's these pockets of gold, I think, that are quite powerful for everybody. So
I think it's forced us to look creatively or differently at the way we connect. But it's become out of necessity, and I think, to Rhys's point, you in the past, it's not that you would know what the answer is, you just assume that person might be too busy or it would be on their list but perhaps not high up it. And then what we've actually discovered is that people are actually finding to engage in ideas and connect through creativity and have a freedom to do it without and permission to do it, to feel safe and permission to go out there and just go, yeah, man, I'm going to contribute to this and I'm going to add my bit to it.
Yeah.
And no one's going to judge, everyone's going to accept. Yeah.
So I think that's quite a powerful lesson too.
I
want to step into just practical advice from both of you. Throughout the series of Reset, one of the most beautiful emails I received because of the feedback and the invaluable insights that all our guests have shared. I received an email from a client who's a soul trader who I absolutely adore, and he started his email with it saying, "Beautiful human, thank you." And literally my heart melted, because he wanted to say thank you in a time where he was able to draw on inspiration from other practitioners that had jumped on and shared some vision, and it allowed him to pivot his business in a really confident way. And as you said before, Matthew, gave him permission to collaborate with others wholeheartedly. Is there a piece of advice that you could, share? Rhys, we'll kick off with you on this one. Is there a piece of advice that you would like to share with our viewers if they are in this situation and they are feeling a bit still left of field? What would you say to our viewers?
In terms of the idea of collaboration or kind of taking action,
anything, just stepping out of your zone, and you're not alone in a moment where everyone's going crazy.
Yeah, I think as creative practitioners, so in the design side of things, it's a skill set that most of us have, is to think laterally about a situation, which is a great skill set to have in an environment like this, because there's an element of optimism bias that's inherent. Like, you're able to see the opportunity in things. And so part of the general advice would just be endurance, I think this personality trait is again, this is an assumption and a generalization, but I see it frequently within my peers within the design sphere. But sometimes the thing that gets in the way or fogs that is just the day-to-day, the humdrum. And so it's kind of just the endurance. There's always going to be another day. There's always going to be another opportunity. There's always going to be another brief. So why not have a hit at this one? And even if it doesn't land, have a hit at the next one and just kind of keep going, because it is seeing it not necessarily as a destination, but a journey that you're kind of just taking step after step and not letting each step fatigue you, but empower you to take the kind of next one. And, you know, obviously some of them, they don't land. They become a little bit challenging to kind of take the next one after that. But the ones that do land give you that energy to kind of keep going and keep going and keep going.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's really powerful advice. Matthew?
I mean, what we've noticed is that our, you know, the importance of long-term relationships, and that, you know, that within the first couple of weeks, we'd, you know, either old clients had called up or we'd called clients that we were connected with. And everyone was checking in, and very early on, I made sure that we created these regular touch points just to talk.
Yeah.
Not about work, just to connect and just have these sort of at least some regular conversations with clients from 15 or 20 years ago that were just like, hey, we knew, you know, this is quite an unprecedented time, but we wanted to make sure that you're okay.
Love that.
And it wasn't, and by doing so, I think we've forged richer relationships because of it. And that sort of thing of just a greater level of trust. And we've seen, you know, notably the loyals stay loyal.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you've got to try and pinpoint for you those key relationships in your network and say, well, you know, I'm going to give them a call. I know that's not great. They might be going through something that's a bit hard, but I'm going to check in and just say, how are you doing? And we've had a couple of instances where you're just like, well, actually, I'm just going to give them a call, find out, and see. And for that, you know, some great relationships or conversations have been had.
Yeah.
That is just amazing. So from a relationship point of view, it's connecting with those people that we call the loyals, and that, you know, it's to not assume that people aren't going to want to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually going to be really grateful that you've called them up and said something, and it is that difference between calling in an email. You know, calling people up is great. Emails that are empathetic are amazing too. So yeah, I've really enjoyed that sort of more honest conversation, and in some ways explorative conversations with friends, clients, and past colleagues as well.
The interesting thing out of that, and that is, well, in terms of an experience that we've had, is almost flipping the paradigm from waiting for the client to come to you, to seeing yourself as having a responsibility to that client and to that your community at large, that you do have something of value to offer, which is just, you know, your ear or, you know, some advice or anything like that. And that you do have a tactical skill set around that. That was something that kind of came out of the start of this was, you know, obviously a lot of our network is in hospitality because, you know, that's the world that we love to engage with, and they were hit really heavily, really, really quickly. And so we almost felt that we had this responsibility to start to kind of help them. And it's like, how do we help you? You know, we don't know how to navigate this bureaucracy. We don't know how to, you know, staff up this side of things here. But what do we have that we can offer that gives you material return or material impact? And so we just did this thing. It was silly. It was called, it was like tapping into the idea of designers have this capacity to think laterally about a problem and find solutions. And so we did a thing called lateral drinking, whereby you just sat down, gave them 2 hours at a time, had a bottle of wine, and just hash it out. It's like, what's the thing that's kind of been disrupted the quickest? Where was your revenue coming from at the start? Where has it dried up? What assets do you have that are opportunities that you can leverage? You know, you turn a bar into a wine shop, you turn this into and just finding ways in which you can offer some assistance, and not seeing that as waiting for them to pick up the phone and call you, but seeing it that you have a responsibility to them as individuals, as business owners and people.
That's a very powerful advice, and I love that both of you have explored it just suits your personalities, really, the way you've gone through it, which I find quite interesting as well. And you're right, you know, if you're a creative, you are it's in your DNA to think laterally and come through for solutions. for others. So, and I know our viewers are going to get so much value out of that. Now, I want to ask you both, very simple question. What keeps you motivated? What keeps you inspired? Rhys, we'll start again there.
That is a very big question.
I know.
Lots of things. This conversation, just shared connection, you know what I mean? Like people having similar experiences that you can relate with. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be academic, they can be really small and human, but just that shared kind of moment that fosters or ignites an energy that then kind of unconsciously sparks somewhere else in terms of a creative practice or just, you know, the way in which you're engaging with life that day. I think that's it. The basketball certainly helps at the moment as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're in the playoffs just quietly, and New York Knicks is a Rhys Gorgal team. So just in case, Matt, you weren't aware.
Sweet.
Amazing. What about you?
Well, I mean, what keeps me motivated? I mean, I love ideas and the conversations around ideas, and this idea can move from here to there and change in color and morph and shape and be everything now.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past it was, you know, a brand and a transaction. It's a lot more. It's this time it's personal. You know, it's really, and it's those relationships that we're forging with people that are really important. And perhaps even more of an openness from myself to others, or from others to myself, and our team. It's that openness to go, I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's probably one of these 6 options. and let's talk that through and have a adult conversation about where it can be, rather than an assumption that it's going to be option 1 or 2.
Yeah, I love that.
And so our design creative has been a little bit more organic. It's taken a lot longer to do, but it's actually been there've been richer experiences in a lot of ways, because it's not sometimes as simple as option 1 or 2. It's actually a sprinkle of all, and we enjoy that. Yeah. And because it's a richer idea, and there's still rules and there's still restrictions and there's still a distinctiveness about it, but that journey of getting there feels a lot more honest and collaborative and thoughtful. And so if we continue doing that, I think we get a richer result. And from that richer result, we get greater engagement from our team and a better result for the client.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you for sharing those insights, because I think they talk about authenticity and looking into self-awareness and looking into the mirror and, you know, and going, what do I need to do to propel myself for the next day? The sun will come up regardless of what the outcome was the day before, you know, and I think that's a really powerful thing as leaders in the creative community, to make sure your own teams are being inspired along the way, you know, with you leading from the front. So that's quite powerful. Now, I wanted to tap really quickly into, we've got that many graduates that have been impacted this year. You know, and my heart goes out to them. You know, you guys know I'm a massive advocate for the education sector. The competition's going to be fierce, because the reality is, you know, there are designers that have been commercial experience that they've potentially lost their own roles due to these circumstances. What, for you guys, how important is the mentoring part for emerging designers, especially in a time when, you know, the industry is reshaping itself, I would say, because we don't know what's coming out at the other end. Rhys, do you want to cap off for us?
I think it is definitely going to be an interesting year for graduates to come out in 2021. But, you know, again, I don't want to be rose-colored glasses, Rhys here, but I think it's it's like a pressure cooker environment. So all of a sudden, everything that was conventional, it was always challenging. There was always only a finite number of design places at design studios for graduates to occupy, and a surplus of graduates that came out. So there was a convention of that. And there was always people that kind of struggled or missed out, or that journey took longer for them. And I think in 2021, the opportunity that comes out of that is that, the game's been flipped. You all of a sudden you can be an author of your destiny.
Great.
So why, like the traditional, I suppose, career pathway of, internship, junior designer, moving around, maybe that's never only been the way to do it.
Exactly.
And I've got a lot of love and a lot of respect for, like Soren at Bureau North and Delano at 360 and Jack and the boys at Motherbird, because they started straight out of university, and it's something I could never have done.
Yeah.
But they're hugely successful, and they've learned a lot, through their own career pathways and kind of doing what they're doing. So I would kind of say that, mentoring is hugely important, but that mentoring doesn't necessarily need to be traditional. I would say that, it is going to be a challenging year in terms of finding a more conventional career pathway into a studio, but those traditional ways are not the only ways. And I think the byproduct of that is finding new ways means that they're more abundant, and that they're potentially more fruitful than the traditional ways, not only for that individual, but for that individual to then inform the industry, to kind of shake that up and kind of keep it on its toes, rather than it kind of just being, this entity's been in industry for, 50 years, and so therefore they're the godfathers and they know everything. Or that the other thing is, technology adapts and changes, so this entity that's been in industry for 50 years is irrelevant now because they don't know the technology. It's like neither of those things are accurate. They both can inform something new. And to this notion of collaboration and kind of breaking things down and breaking down assumptions, hopefully the graduates that come out in 2021 really shake things up and progress really rapidly through their own careers, but also progress the industry.
Well, I'm going to make sure that every lecturer that I work with will be seeing this particular episode. Matt, would you like to add your thoughts, please?
Oh, I think Rhys has summed it up really well. I think if I was to add to that, the graduate, rather than coming to a studio looking for a job, they're looking for mentorship or some sort of greater relationship. And what I mean by that is, to Rhys's point, that you will find that there'll be a lot more startups out of this because of students going, well, can't get a job, going to make me a studio. And I think the interesting thing that could come out of it is real mentorship, which is it's not real mentorship, a different type of mentorship, which is saying, well, we're two studios and we're working independently of each other, but I've got this problem, and I'm calling on you, Rhys, to help me out here because I really don't know which way I'm going to go. It could be an IP issue, it could be a HR issue, it could be just a creative thing, and that new level of collaboration happens dynamically, rather than it being a social thing, and rather than, oh, please, can I have a job? It's like, actually, I've got something to offer. I'm actually looking to create a network of, relationships or people around us that are going to help us all move on our journey in a positive way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting, the idea of, mentorship almost insinuates a one-way flow of information or value, whereas everything we've been talking about today is about collaboration, and it's a two-way sharing of value backwards and forwards. And I would argue to graduates, it shouldn't be a mentorship, it should be a collaboration, because there's a 21-year-old graduate that comes into our studio for whatever reason, experience, format it is. It isn't one way in terms of that learning. We're getting a great level of insight into, their demographic, their way of thinking, all that sort of stuff. And they're getting a lot of insight in terms of, our experience and our kind of way in which we tackle our practice.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I had the honour of actually being a mentor for AGDA last year. They kind of went outside the box, and shout out to Amber Bonney for doing that. And I had the most incredible experience and you're right, it's a two-way street. What I got out of that exercise in that period with a beautiful young designer, I am forever indebted to her, because I now see with a different lens in certain areas within the creative field, which has actually enriched my purpose in why I do what I do for Ball Doggett. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's quite a powerful exchange. And I think it's wrong in that regard. So, but I want to wrap up with a, just for you guys to share, because I always like to leave it up high, right? Leave it on a high. With all the learnings that you've gone through and any kind of moments, just share a moment of joy that has come out of this. Just if you could isolate one thing, and pun kind of intended with the word isolate, but isolate one moment that's just brought you absolute joy through this marathon. What would that be, Rhys?
I'm going to go with what came straight to my mind, which is nothing to do with design, but I got a puppy. So that was
fantastic.
And it's been one that I've kind of wanted for, 8 years, and then serendipity in the universe just locked into place, and within a week I had a dog. So that.
I'm coming in for cuddles. God, I can't wait.
Studio dog.
Yes, yes.
And it's
what about you?
Dog as well. It's like a golden retriever, like a something from Wisconsin. A Republican politician dog named not Scout, but you know what I mean. It's like it's the most generic of dogs, kind of dogs.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. He's yours or she's yours. What's the dog's name?
Shirley.
Shirley, of course.
Perfect. We need photos as soon as we finish the recording. Matthew, what about you?
The thing that's brought me the most joy has been my team. Actually, I have really enjoyed every moment of connecting with those guys, and hold them very dearly as fond memories, and sometimes things can be a bit shit, and sometimes they can be a little bit great, and we champion the things that have been wonderful. And building a studio culture really takes a long time, and I've just been grateful to have that tenacity of the guys that we have. Shout outs to Emily and Laura and Dana, to just hang in there. And just so the team aspect has been awesome.
Oh, that's terrific. Rhys, Matthew, thank you so much for your generosity of time and your spirit that you've brought to this morning's conversation. Honestly, thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's amazing forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to catch up. Good to see you, Matt.
Yeah, it's really good to see you both.
No,
really looking forward to catching up.
And from all of us at Ball Doggett, from our team to yours, we wish you all the best, and just to make sure, that all is well, wellness, and that you continue to succeed as you do, because the contribution that you guys bring to our design community, not just in Australia, but the work that you put out on a global level is so inspiring. And I just look forward to being in your presence sometime very soon. So thank you for this morning. And to
I so hug.
I love that. Now, to all our viewers, thank you so much for your ongoing support, and thank you for jumping on and looking at our episodes. I would love to encourage you to jump down into the description. Like with all our guests, we ask them to respond to the question, what does optimism look like to you and your business right now? You can head down there and see Rhys and Matthew's responses. And from me, Zadie Jackson, Ball Doggett, stay well. Thank you.